We're here in Amsterdam at the Open Source Summit Europe. Stack Agents live for the first time, really live on location. We're hoping this works, which hopefully it will if you see this. And we're here with Lin from Solo.io, head of open source. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yes, you've been to many of these open source summits, I'm sure.
This is actually my first time attending Open Source
Wow.
Summit. I'm always a speaker, but this is the first time I'm actually got to attend a conference.
I always wonder what that's like because I never get to attend conferences either because I'm always doing something like this or having briefings. What is different for you now that you just get to attend it?
Actually, that's a great point. I can't say I'm actually attending a conference, but on my badge, I'm an attendee instead of a speaker. One thing really nice is I don't need to go to the speaker lounge and prepare my slides because I'm a demo heavy person. So I always do last minute prepare on my talk, just mainly for the live demos. Because I believe that's the best part of any talk. And I'm a person, I can visualize things when I see it. So
I agree. Live demos are scary though. Have you ever had the live demo go wrong on you?
that's a great point. I did. Actually, at Open Source Summit in Austin a couple of years ago, I had my live demo was going wrong because somebody pushed out a new version of, I think I was showing Bumblebee, and somebody was pushing out a new version, and it didn't quite work exactly the way it was supposed to be. Luckily, we were live debugging on stage, and somebody in the audience was also from Solo, and somebody else actually in the audience also spotted what's wrong, which is very cool. So everybody was cheering up when the problem was resolved. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Sometimes it's more fun when the demo goes wrong than
that
when it
is so
works,
true.
actually.
I'm completely with you, especially when it recovers. People were just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And they just applaud without you asking them
Exactly.
to applaud.
It's much, much better.
Yeah.
Now here at the Open Source Summit Europe, the new product from Solo.io is Open Agent Gateway. Sorry, not Open Agent Gateway,
It's an
Agent
open source
Gateway.
project.
It's an open source, I know. So Agent Gateway, talk to me a little bit about that. What is it and what does it do?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about the new project we launched, Agent Gateway, which we recently, yesterday, I think at 9 o'clock, we donated to the Linux Foundation, and it's accepted by the Linux Foundation. It's the first and only Agent Gateway project, open source project on the market. So Agent Gateway essentially is applying security, provides security, governance and observability to agent-to-agent, agent-to-MCP tools, agent-to-large language model communication. So we believe as part of everybody's agentic journey, everybody starts with either MCP tools or AI agents, right? But these agents need to communicate to each other. The MCP tools needs to be called by some agents or multiple agents, and the agents also needs to communicate to large language model. And we also believe nobody's going to run agentic AI without any traditional microservices. So it's going to be a mixed environment. Not only you have agents, you have a large language model, you have MCP server tools, you have traditional classical microservices. That's why Agent Gateway was born, to help solving connectivity challenges that can natively understand MCP and A2A, some of the leading agentic AI protocols,
Right.
but can also understand traditional microservices, can support Kubernetes Gateway API, which is the future of networking API in Kubernetes. It also supports inference gateway. In fact, we just passed not only the Kubernetes Gateway API conformance test, but also the inference gateway extension conformance test for Agent Gateway.
What's the inference gateway for those that are not familiar with that?
So the inference gateway, you can think of it as a smart large language model router that can route the request intelligently based on the endpoint who is who has the model already loaded and who is available to serve the model based on certain metrics the endpoint provides. So it's the goal is to be able to route the large language request very intelligently and pick the right endpoint for you based on the request.
Got it. Got it. Now, going back to the agent gateway, I guess the question is, why do I need it, right? Because I have A2A, I have MCP. Why have a middleman?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're absolutely right. A2A provides the standardized of communication protocol between agents to agent, right? The MCP tool is like a USB-C driver or adapter for the tools, right? But there's no governance in between agents to agents. There's no security policy enforcement between your agents to MCP server tools. There's no no balance or resilience. Some of the things we needed, such as to provide communication, mediate the communication between microservices, we believe we're going to need the same thing plus more, right? Because not only we need traditional security policy, observability, and governance and compliance between these agents to agents and agents to MCP server tool, we also need the gateway be able to natively understanding MCP server protocol, understanding A2A protocol. Let me give an example, right? Traditionally, when we put a proxy between microservices, we use that proxy to mediate the traffic, like route to different versions of the microservice to do load balancer, retry, resilience magic to be able to apply security policy to say, hey, this microservice can only reach out to maybe a GET request on this particular path, right? With MCP server tool, you are no longer necessarily dealing with like a slash a particular path or GET or post method, right? Because if you look at the MCP server tool, typically, for example, the GitHub MCP server tool I'm playing with, it has like 20 plus, I think somewhere between 20 to 50 tools available, but you don't necessarily want to expose all of the tools available to your agents. Some of the tools you may not want to expose to them because you haven't tested it yourself enough to be able to release to them, or some of the tools you just don't want them to use it at all.
Sure, sure.
So having the gateway in between your agents to your MCP server, you can provide the policy and governance control to say, hey, maybe out of these 20 plus tools, I'm going to expose only 5 of them to my AI agents. And also I could potentially configure it as maybe for this particular AI agent, I'm going to only expose 1 out of the 20 plus, but for this particular AI agent, I'm going to expose maybe 5. So having the gateway be able to understanding the MCP protocol provide us the capability to do that outside of the traditional get and post, and on the URL pass type of authorization policy.
For sure. A lot of this sounds like, what we'd hear about API gateways to some degree, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of learnings in this from the experience with that, but there's kind of compare and contrast maybe a little bit what's different here because at the end of the day, it feels like MCP is just also maybe just an API at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It does sound like an API gateway, but I feel like there's more to that, right? Because the MCP protocol is, I believe it's JSON RPC based, and it's also very context sensitive. The communication between agents and MCP protocols, MCP tools. And you can also have multiplex, right? One agent gateway connecting to multiple MCP server and tools. So it does have unique characteristic that's different from the traditional workloads behind an API gateway. That's why I think a way to think about it is the agent gateway. You can think about it as traditional API gateway plus the AI agents components, right?
Right.
Which is also why the agent gateway not only implements support for MCP and A2A, but also implements the support for traditional microservices. Like we implemented HTTP route, gRPC route, TCP route in agent gateway implementation in K-Gateway. By the way, the agent gateway itself doesn't support Kubernetes Gateway API.
Okay.
It's through a control plane called K-Gateway to provide Kubernetes Gateway API support.
Got it. Now, one question I always have then is anybody using this already? Are you having customers who are asking for this? Or?
We definitely have customers asking for it. We actually develop Agent Gateway for our own usage internally too. I don't know, I think I talked to you or maybe somebody else from the news stack about K-Agent, which is the project
maybe
we
you and I talked about this at some
point. K-Agent, for those of you who are not know, it's a project we were inspired from Hurricane Helene last year and took one of our customer down in production, insurance company, not too surprising. And we were sitting on the call to help troubleshooting production outage. It's not a fun story, but what we learned in the hard way is we have very limited expertise in the company, and we want to be able to scale out fast some of our expertise within the company to have our best engineer to not actually help our support engineer, but having their knowledge baked into AI agents to help them. So as we were developing agents, running these agents internally, we find out we need security, we need compliance, we need governance between agents to MCP server and agents to agents. So we are adopting this inside of Solo. We've also talking to some of the customers. In fact, I believe T-Mobile was one of them who giving us a quote. UBS was also one of them giving us a supporting quote when we were able to launch the Agent Gateway. So some of the users in the banking industry, you know, they are very interested in using agentic AI to solve their challenges.
Right.
Some of the challenging we see is how do we scale out platform engineers, right? With AI, vibe coding, you know, there's going to be more applications to be born, but how do you scale out your platform engineer to be able to accommodate more application, more workloads? So that's a real challenging, which is what K-Agent is trying to solve. But one of the challenges with K-Agents is you don't have a way to mediate that traffic between agents to agent and agent to MCP server tool. That's why Agent Gateway can come in. I mean, Agent Gateway wasn't just designed for K-Agent, but they do fit nicely in a story together. You can use Agent Gateway for any other agentic AI framework, but it fits nicely also with K-Agent as well.
Sure. And I would assume those companies in those regulated industries are especially sensitive to having governance and security tools.
Absolutely, yeah.
Still a bit missing in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's why we always feel Agent Gateway is the first and only agentic proxy in the market out there, because that's the only one that can understand natively of MCP and A2A. And you're absolutely right. A lot of users and potential customers were talking about they're in the banking industry. In fact, we had a user in the cryptocurrency world. He said he can't disclose to me who he worked for, but he's pinged me multiple times about
always so mysterious in the Web3 world.
Exactly. Agent Gateway and how Agent Gateway lands in the K-Gateway, which is the control plane to program Agent Gateway inside of Kubernetes. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of interest. So far, since we created Agent Gateway, I believe in April, we've gotten a lot of contribution from Microsoft. Actually, recently just added Windows support for Agent Gateway. I was shocked because typically adding a Windows support takes a long time. But I think it's solving with like a medium-sized PR. I believe it just got merged. AWS added some bedrock examples for Agent Gateway. So they've been contributing to Agent Gateway. There's an initiative called Cloud Native Operation Excellence CNOE, which is the name of, it's kind of like a agentic AI for platform engineer. It's an initiative spun by Cisco, AWS, and a couple of others in the community. And they are adopting agent gateway to help mediate that communication challenge between multiple agents and agents to MCP server tools. Yeah, so we've seen quite a lot of interesting contribution from different community members. We're super excited. We feel like this is one of the big things, that like a big puzzle for the agentic AI world to help solving that connectivity challenge.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue. Now Windows now is going to soon have MCP servers, I think, built in, so it makes sense for them maybe to to make this move as well.
Exactly, yeah. And it wasn't like an army of people did that PI, just one of the contributor we know from the Istio community, and he just added the support for Windows. So that's one thing we really like about the Agent Gateway project is when we initially started to tackle this problem, we looked at the Envoy, and we didn't want to...
Logical place for someone to look at, yes.
Exactly, it's a logical place to look at, but we didn't want to spend 6 months or 12 months to re-architect the Envoy to be able to support MCP or A2A, because Envoy wasn't designed. I mean, it was created almost 10 years ago, and before A2A or MCP was born, so you would have to re-architect the Envoy. And we had a painful lesson from the Istio ambient community when we were based on one of the key components on Envoy, and we wasted 6 months on that project, and we had to rewrite using Rust. So this time we decided let's not waste that 6 months again, and we just started Agent Gateway ourselves, also using Rust.
Always start with Rust, I think, as part of the message.
I mean, that's the creator of Envoy said. I think he quoted him a few years ago. He said, if I were to start Envoy today, I wouldn't start with C++. I would choose Rust, right? So
starting anything with C++ sounds painful, but you brought up Istio, just maybe as a final question. Because when I think of Solo, I still think service mesh first, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how does this fit into the overall picture for Solo?
Yeah, so Solo as a company is solving cloud-native networking challenge, right? So when people think about Solo, it is service mesh, it is API gateway, right? Because we started the company as Glue, right?
Yeah.
But I don't believe this is disconnected. It's actually interconnected, because as people looking at cloud native, they're not just looking at traditional microservices now. With agentic AI, people are looking at how to bring AI agents fitting into their cloud native architecture, right? So they're looking at what agent frameworks should I adopt, and how am I going to run my agentic infrastructure? Is Kubernetes the right way? I believe so. I mean, that's where we invest the past 10 years on infrastructure-wise. So I think people are looking at not just a service mesh, they are also looking at, can we make the mesh, not only the gateway agentic, but can we also make it the mesh agentic, right? So traditionally, we haven't, I mean, we've seen a lot of adoption with service mesh, but not as high as we had hoped, right? Because a lot of users were happy with maybe their team owns the entire Kubernetes cluster, or maybe they're just happy to have plain text
and they don't need discovery and features like that.
So they stay away from service mesh, which is totally cool. But I think with agentic AI, the game might change as the perspective for the mesh, right? Especially with service mesh without sidecar, we've seen people more willing to adopt the service mesh once we get rid of the complexity of the sidecar. But with agentic, there's additional challenge they would have to solve, like the MCP security policy control we discussed early on, right? That's additional challenge they didn't have before. the agent-to-agent communication, they can't trust the agents more than the microservices they wrote, right? So I do think that auditability, it's going to be way more important than microservice today, which they are the owner, they feel more confident, so they can trust. But I think that with agentic AI, people are going to change their perspective on security and observability for sure.
Yeah. Agents and security is still one of those problems that nobody has solved quite yet, I think.
Exactly. And if you don't trust it, then you need at least very good observability, very good auditability to know what's going on. I think people still want human in the loop for sure. Yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, Lin.
Well, thank
Much
you so much,
appreciated.
Frederick. It's
Good to talk to you again.
Talking to you too.
Absolutely. And
thanks for having me.
we'll do this again next time.
Yeah, I would love to.
For sure. Thank you.
Thanks.